very good evening to you. I am Lisa Lord, and on this one-on-one, we will look at the work of the Salvation Army in Barbados. My first special guest is the Divisional Commander, Major Brenda Greenidge. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. Let's start by looking at the Salvation Army holistically from a historical perspective. When were you formed? How many countries do you have a presence in, etc.?
Okay, the Salvation Army is an international movement, as most of you would know. Presently, we're operating in over 130 countries. Started in the year 1865 by a Methodist minister in the East End of London, and over the years, the Salvation Army has spread its wings. The Salvation Army is part of the Evangelical Church. Its fundamental purpose or fundamental mission is to save souls, grow saints, and to serve suffering humanity. Being part of the Evangelical Church, the message of the Salvation Army is based on the Bible, and its social work is extended to all persons, irrespective of their class, their creed, or their color. Being part of the Evangelical Church in Barbados, the Salvation Army has 11 churches, which is spread throughout 7 parishes. Hopefully, before the end of this year or early into next year, we will move into our 8th parish. We started some ministries we started some services in the parish of St. George. So we're hoping to take the Salvation Army ministry to that particular parish as well. We have a mantra, which is soup, soap, and salvation. Soup, because we give a hot meal. Soap, basic needs and dignity of individuals, and of course then they're better able to respond to salvation. The minister or the founder of the Salvation Army, William Booth, which I said earlier was a Methodist minister, felt that a person is better able to listen to what you have to say about God, and you present the gospel to them if their stomachs are full and if they're feeling warm and a little bit clean, then you can talk to them about Jesus. So that's where our social programs kicked in from, ministering to the total man. Now, for our social programs, as I said, it is we minister to the total man. So outside of our pastoral responsibility, outside of our church services, then that's our social programs commence from there. In our church services, we have worship time like all other churches. And so every Sunday morning, our ministry is mainly to the believer. We call it our holiness meeting because it caters and gears mainly for persons who have already started a relationship with the Lord. We have our salvation meetings, which is open to everybody. Any person can walk in and sit into those services. We used to have our open air meetings. There are less of them now because you would realize that a lot of people now not coming into the church, so you need to take the church from beneath the 4 walls.
How many members do you have in your church, and then how many employees do you have?
I would say in total, and I should have added that St. Lucia, which falls into the Barbados division, also there's also a church there as well, along with their social programs. I would say that our membership throughout the entire Barbados division would be around 600 persons, and that includes our senior and our youth as well. But outside of that, we have also ministries to women, which comprise the largest amount of persons who would come to the Salvation Army, the women's ministries. We have our men's ministry as well, which the response is not as of course, more women in church than there are men. And then we have our youth ministries.
And then employees, in terms of your employees?
Employees, I would say between Barbados and St. Lucia, employees will be about 40 persons.
About 40. Now, the Salvation Army is an organization which seeks to assist those who are less fortunate. As you said, you have a range of social services. You have the feeding program and your Meals on Wheels program. Tell me about the programs.
The feeding program caters for about maybe about 350 persons, hot meal from Monday to Friday. The Meals on Wheels is about 80 persons. The 350 persons will come to our center on Reed Street. The Meals on Wheels caters in catering for those 80 persons who can't come to the center. So we have a vehicle that will go, I think it's about five of the parishes that they cover, taking meals to persons who can't come to the center, either because they're disabled or because of their age.
And the Meals on Wheels, as you said, it's Monday to Friday.
Monday to Friday, yes.
Then what happens over the weekend?
During the week, if it's a long weekend, as is coming shortly, small package is given of dry food to tie them over until the next meal day.
Have you seen an increase in terms of the demand for the meals, whether it be the Meals on Wheels or your feeding program?
There has been an increase. The 275 is what we were catering for at our feeding center. So it's now over 350, I said. The Meals on Wheels, it's 80 persons, I think between 80 and 85 persons. But of course, as people die, then, the number decreased, but then we have additions. So we're about between 80 and 85 persons now, the Meals on Wheels. And that increase, particularly at the feeding center, came about in the last 2 years.
And these are nutritious meals that you're serving?
Nutritious enough, I would say. Persons would sometimes even ask for a second serving, and any member of staff who might not have brought their lunch, of course, they can also get a meal over there. It's not a regular thing, but occasionally that happens. I have soup every Thursday.
Because you like soup?
Yes, I do, and it's always good.
And just to be clear, the feeding program not only caters to those persons who are homeless, but those persons who have simply fallen on hard times.
Yes, it does. You find, guys, few women, there are more men than there are women. Some are homeless, but some are just around town hustling, trying to make $1 here and there, and maybe can't utilize that in buying a dinner, so they'll come to us. So they're not all homeless people that come to us.
You also have a food pantry program.
Yeah, the food pantry program caters for about 600 families per month, and that number has increased from pre-pandemic. The grocery bag is made up based on the number of persons in the family, and each individual, each family, we have to get the details, how many persons in the family, how many are employed, how many children. So that helps us to determine what we would put into the grocery bags.
So you don't mean assessment?
Yes, there is.
Do you have persons waiting to get on that program?
There might be persons who would want to get on, but of course, we've not turned anybody away. So even if they're not on the program as a regular and come in to say that they need something, just recently, one person called me and said, my cupboard is bare. I really don't have anything in my cupboard. No, she's not on the program, but the person from our member of staff who's assigned to look after that program, I went to her and I said, what do we have that we can put in? And so she had a grocery box, chicken, eggs, dry food, enough that would have taken her and her family through for about 6 weeks.
So I am at home watching this program. Things are not good at all. I come to the Salvation Army here, your headquarters here at Reed Street. Take me through the process then.
The initial request, information is taken. Initial request, a person comes in and asks for help. The information is taken, where do you live? Are you employed? How many persons in your family? Anybody's working? How many children there are? And a response will be given to that request. The person comes back, then maybe it'll be a little bit more information that would be required, because we wouldn't want to have people just coming in to get a free bag when of course they can afford it, and to avoid that, then there's a little bit of follow-up to determine if the need is legit or not.
At Christmas time, the Salvation Army is much more visible. You have your kettle appeal, so you have the kettles all across Barbados, various places. A few weeks ago, you shared the wonderful news that you had surpassed your target of $750,000 by almost $100,000.
Yeah, that was great. And that increase has started from after we went through or during the pandemic, because we had a target of 700,000, and we surpassed that as well, and then we increased it by 50,000, and we surpassed that. I think that there was a consciousness of corporate Barbados that the need exists, because there's several persons who had lost their jobs or were now working on just maybe
Reduced hours.
1-2 days a week, and so the need of the family still had to be met. So we would normally give 4,000 grocery hampers at Christmas time. Last Christmas we gave 4,800, and that was outside of another distribution that we had which was specific. The donor specifically asked that that contribution be made to specifically families with children, and we did about 800 families outside of our 4,800 persons who had benefited from our usual Christmas distribution.
Regarding your hamper distribution at Christmas, is it a more controlled environment now in terms of the persons that benefit from the hampers?
Okay, there's a process for the families that have children. They would have to register differently, separately from the usual 4,000 persons. And the head of the family or an adult in the family would then do that registration, presenting their ID and the identification of the children, so that they qualify to get an hamper, which would have additional items like, see the corn flakes and the things that children like. So that registration is separate and done differently from the usual hamper preparation.
What are some of the challenges facing the Salvation Army at this time?
I would say the main challenge is for the Salvation Army to meet all the existing needs. Of course, we won't be able to, but it is very hard when we have to turn somebody away because we're not in a position to assist. We have persons who will come maybe with medical needs and looking for monies to help buy their medication, or even to travel overseas to have a particular surgery done. We're not in the habit of giving funds. If we can assist, and if the case is legitimate, and of course they have to prove that the request is legitimate, then the Salvation Army's approach would be more, if it's medication, to make the payment to the pharmacy or to the organization that request where the assistant is requested from. So that would be our approach. However, we're not in a financial position to respond to those big needs, and it is really hard when we have to say we can't help.
And are you generally pleased with the response of Barbadians to donating?
We are more than pleased. I laud the Barbados public for the response to the Salvation Army mission in trying to relieve poverty. I mean, the Bible tells us the poor will be with us always, but if the Salvation Army can help to alleviate that, definitely it is part of our mandate, as I said earlier, to not only save souls, but to serve suffering humanity. So the Barbados public really comes on board and assists the Salvation Army in doing what we do. And I've said it often, and I make no qualms about repeating it, that behind the Salvation Army, there is an army that enables us to do what we have to do. And we are indebted to the people of Barbados for the response, not only for acknowledging and recognizing what we're doing, but being a partner in helping us to realize.
No, you retired last December.
I did.
But you are continuing with the mission until summer, around August, I believe it is.
Yes.
Now, after 43 years with the Salvation Army, a lifetime, what has been the greatest lesson in terms of serving others?
I think it is that I could not have done it without God's help. It had to be total dependence on Him. To have gone through 43 years of service as a single woman. I worked in several of the islands. I worked in Jamaica. I did more than 3 different terms in Jamaica and Belize and Antigua. I did 9 years in Africa. And in reflecting on all of that, I realized that I could not have managed it had it not been, first of all, my calling, and had it not been God's assistance and obedience to Him and His leading in my life.
And in terms of the Salvation Army going forward, where would you like to see the mission go in terms of its outreach?
For me, I would really want to see more done in soul saving, because ultimately that is the part of man that needs a lot of attention. So I would like to see more in terms of soul saving. Yes, we do much social work in ministering to the physical and the basic needs of man, but soul saving is where I would want to see the Salvation Army going forward, because there are a lot of people out there who still need to know about Jesus and to embrace the eternal life that He has given His life so that we can have.
Ma'am, thank you so much for sitting and chatting with us this evening. We wish you a very happy retirement when it actually starts. But thank you for all that you and your team here at the Salvation Army are doing.
Thank you very much.
You're
And
most
thank you for
welcome.
having us.
You are most welcome. That was Major Brenda Greenidge, the Divisional Commander of the Salvation Army here in Barbados. Stay with us, still a lot more to chat about. You're watching One on One.
Keep it clean, keep it green.
Barbadians, we invite you to get involved and play your part as we clean and green Barbados. Come into your community with media launches, bulk waste collection exercises, community engagement sessions, and giveaways. Get on board. Let's keep Barbados clean and green.
Beautiful, beautiful Barbados.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ingrid Burrows, and I'm going to give you some tips on managing your hypertension. The first thing you should do is to decrease your salt intake. You should keep your salt intake to less than 1 gram a day. This is equivalent to about 1 teaspoon of salt every day. Another thing you should do is to ensure that you're getting enough physical activity. You should aim for 150 minutes of aerobic exercise every week of moderate intensity. For example, brisk walking, light jogging, swimming, or running. This equates to half an hour of exercise 5 days a week. You also want to increase your intake of fresh fruits and vegetables. It is advised that you eat 5 servings of fruit and vegetable every day. And the last thing you can do is monitor your blood pressure at home with a digital machine. This is very important as some patients have elevated blood pressures while in the doctor's office while having normal blood pressures at home. This is called white coat hypertension. Also, if you're taking medication for your hypertension and you notice any changes in your blood pressure, you can call your doctor and he or she can adjust your medications to suit. If your readings are too high or too low, you can inform your doctor and he or she can adjust your medications appropriately. I hope these tips have been helpful.
All of our emotions, reactions, and behavior start with a thought. I'm Krisnan Hurdle, clinical psychologist and certified life coach. When we are confronted with a situation, the stimuli we receive from the outside is matched up to information, knowledge, and beliefs we have stored in our minds. This creates an emotion, and then a behavioral response follows. The information we have stored as our memories, beliefs, attitudes, and our trauma shape our outlook on situations and our responses to situations. It is therefore necessary to detox, to renew, and to train the mind. Be careful what you put in and pay attention to what comes out. Take control of your mind and take control of your life.
The Barbados Police Service is a dynamic organization which caters to the needs of all residents by providing excellent customer service within our communities. We are excited to inform you that we are recruiting new members to our ranks and welcome your participation.
We are building the Barbados Police Service within our communities. Are you smart, skillful, motivated, ambitious, reliable, and talented?
Smart to fulfill your life's dream.
Smart to chart career opportunities.
Smart to make a difference.
Smart to pursue economic sustainability.
Smart to enable change.
Smart to provide public service.
I say to you today, if you have a love for people, if you enjoy nurturing your communities and taking care of persons, then definitely the Barbados Police Service, of which I am a proud member, is the place for you. So I encourage you, lend us a hand, join us now to help keep Barbados safe.
Come join us, join me in making our country a safer Barbados.
Your place is here in the Barbados Police Service.
Come, join our ranks and chart a career of economic sustainability. Make that difference as an agent of change while providing public service as you fulfill your life's dream.
Hi, I'm Dr. Adana Grandison, and I'm here to give you a few tips on how to accurately and safely take your blood pressure readings at home. Before taking your measurement, sit in a calm, warm environment. Don't perform any exercise in the preceding 1 hour. No coffee, food, smoking, or even sinus medication in the preceding hour to taking that blood pressure reading. Empty your bladder and bowel. Most readings that are taken at home should be below or at 135 on 85 millimeters of mercury for uncomplicated hypertension. Lower home blood pressure targets might be advisable in persons who have the following conditions: diabetes, chronic renal disease, or coronary heart disease. If several readings are above 140 on 90 millimeters of mercury, make an appointment with your physician immediately. Ensure to take your readings at the same time every day. We advise 2 readings in the morning and 2 readings in the evening, initially to profile yourself, taken 1 to 2 minutes apart. However, once you have established a baseline, you can choose a time suitable to your schedule where you can monitor your blood pressure readings.
When does a mental health issue become a problem? When should you reach out for help? I'm Chris Hurdle, clinical psychologist and certified life coach. Mental health issues interrupt a person's daily functions. An issue becomes a disorder when a person isn't able to carry out their everyday activities like household duties, personal upkeep and hygiene, or interferes with their ability to function socially, to interact with others inside the household, or interferes with their ability to function on the job or carry out other activities. If a person finds themselves needing to self-isolate, losing touch with reality, or having an impaired ability to think, reason, or function, and if this occurs over a period of days, weeks, or months, then it is time that they reach out for help.
Welcome back as we continue our look at the work of the Salvation Army. We're joined now by Divisional Business Manager, Ms. Sherma Evelyn. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, as we were discussing in the first half, the Salvation Army caters to the less fortunate, and the Army runs its men's hostel. Tell us about the men's hostel.
Well, our men's hostel is open for 20 men, single men, and not only for homeless persons, but persons who are in need of shelter. The men's hostel also deals with persons who may be deported, who come in and the government, the police may call or embassy may call, and they have no one here for them to stay with. They will come, they will call us and ask us if we can house them. Unfortunately, present is a good thing and is a bad thing. Presently, we have 20 rooms and all 20 are filled. So if we had someone now, we wouldn't be able to place them in that hostel because we are filled. Now, the men who come here, they pay rent of $50 a week because most of them can't afford to pay the $50. Those who cannot, those are the ones who are placed there by welfare department, and they are covered by the welfare department, who place them there, and they pay us to keep them there, house them there until the situation has changed.
Between what ages are these men?
Most of them are between, I think the youngest we may have is 35 and up. Mm-hmm. So we have, I think the oldest may be 80.
Okay. And there are also plans, I know, for a women's shelter.
Yeah.
We've been talking about that for some time.
Yes, we've been talking about this women's shelter for many years. One of the challenges that we face is after we built the men's hostel, to think about where we can house the women's shelter. We have since identified a location. We have since got drawings done that approved. And we're at the stage now where we are working through this women's shelter with a donor who have some questions that we need to just, put in perspective for them and for us. Because if a women's shelter, like the men's shelter, we would have to look at funding, because it don't make no sense building a shelter and then the ongoing funding and maintenance of that shelter is very important.
Right.
So we are looking at that. We're even asking persons if they're interested in partnering with us to get the shelter, help us maintain the shelter, funding it, contributing furniture, whatever we need. We don't have a problem. If you're interested, we will very much appreciate that.
And is there, in terms of a number that you would like to cater to?
Well, right now, based on the drawings, is about 15 women with children. So the rooms, each room, they can cater to women and children. So it's not just looking for women, but we're also, because we have had some situations where women are evicted with their children. Yes. And they have nowhere. They come here, but we have nowhere to place them. And that is a great need. We have some that even in our pantry program, they got there because they came here, but we could only assist them with food. A thrift store could only assist them with clothing for them and their children. But then to find some place else for them to go, we have to call in the welfare department to see if they can have them housed somewhere. I know of one situation where a lady came, and when she came, she told us she was evicted from her home. And funny enough, she was living underneath the cellar of someone else's home. And that for us was heartbreaking. I think that propelled us to work more diligently on getting this women's shelter up and running. But our concern is that we don't want it to be a burden to keep it running, because we may say the women will stay there for 3 months or 6 months, but then at the end of it, they have to stay longer because they don't have a job, they don't have nowhere else to go. So we have to work in partnership with partners so that we can, make sure that they're housed properly. All the requirements from town country planning and the environmental department has been worked through. So that is not even a concern right now. Concern is that if we finish this program, how get it built, how we are going to maintain it if the persons don't have jobs.
And you just highlighted something there, that you work very closely with social services, so the welfare department, the police, etc.
Yes, we do. Our thrift store I have I have come to know a lot of policemen because they come into the thrift store. They may have a person in custody who need to go to court, but they don't have clothes to go to court in. And they will come to the thrift store, they come and they say, well, he's going to court or she's going to court, and this they don't what they have on, they can't go to court in. And we will say, okay, you go down to the thrift store manager, tell them what you want, and one of the person in the thrift store would assist them.
Now tell me about the thrift store.
The thrift store is one of the ways that we are able to raise funds for our feeding program. And it allows us, through the donations of corporate Barbados and individuals, with clothing, accessories like earrings, you name it, furniture, appliances, equipment, whatever, we're able to put in our thrift store and we resell them for a minimum fee. And in doing that, we are able to help ourselves with some income to keep our program running. Now, one of the things about the thrift store is that it don't only cater for those who come in and purchase, it also caters to those who are in need. So our fire victims, persons who need clothing, or men, mostly the men on the feeding center, they get clothing to change, especially those who are homeless or so, they get clothing to change every week, a new set of clothes. The thrift store on a monthly basis can give out to families, 400 families, clothing that is donated by the Barbadian public.
And in terms of those donations, I know a few years ago there were some concerns about persons donating things that were not in the best of condition.
Yes, we still get it, but not to the same extent. We ask persons to be conscious of what they donate. If you're not going to wear it yourself because it's already broken, it means then that we have to throw it away. And to cut that down, we have asked persons over the years to, be conscious of what you're giving. Give good quality. Now, also, one of the challenges that we have had is that we're not getting enough clothing now. Since COVID, we have not been able to, some days we don't have enough things to put into the thrift store to sell or to even to give away to persons who are in need. So we really need to appeal to the Barbados public, bring your clothing. We need them at Reese Street so that we can, meet what those obligations we do have. And trust me, they are sold, they are put together very good. If you look at the thrift store, it is well established. Like you're walking in a department store, you go and you walk through, you select what you want. There's a discount bin. So anything in the bin may be $2. So once it's in that bin, you just take it out and pay $2 for it. It's reasonable. And our clientele at the thrift store, they're able to purchase these things at a minimum cost so that instead of just giving it to them, they're able to purchase with some dignity of, I have bought something.
Yeah.
I know of a situation where a young lady came to the office and said she had an interview the next day, but she had no clothing that would suit an interview. And I said to her, go around the back and see how they can assist you. And when she got the job, she came back and said, thank you. That is what is really appreciated about when you serve suffering humanity, that when they do get the hands up, that they turn back and say thank you for it.
You also have a back to school program.
Our back to school program. Seems like we're doing a lot of things.
Yeah, a lot.
But our back to school program is catering for 100 families. We have partners that we seek to partner with each year. Each year for the last 5 years, we have been partnering with ABEDS. ABEDS have been our constant partner, and we've been able to help those 100 families. Now, you would understand that when we say 100 families, it may be more children than the 100, because some families have 7, some families have, 2, 1, but it depends on the family. So if your family have 7, we would not give you a voucher for $100 because we know that will not go as far. We try to assist you a little more because in that we also gave out stationery. We gave out school books, school uniforms. So there's also ways that we are able to assist these families during the school term. Because even with that, we also have a breakfast program with 2 schools where, yes, there's school meals for lunch, but on the morning, there are some children going to school for breakfast. So there are 2 schools that we assist with breakfast items, and they prepare them.
Oh.
They prepare them. So if it's eggs or whatever it is, we try to assist them, tuna, sausages, something, even though it's, make sure that it's healthy and that these children can get something before they go to school. I always remember that they used to say, if you're hungry, you're not going to take the learning very good.
That is true.
Because you're conscious that you're hungry. So these 2 schools have been trying to help these children that come from low-income families, that even when they're at school, that they're able to at least start the day right.
The mission is also involved in disaster relief efforts. Go into some detail about what it is that you do when it comes to disaster relief.
Okay, so disaster relief for us is preparation. Most of the times we prepare for the disaster. Since I've been here for the last 5 years, we had to do it 3 times. Hurricane Elsa, St. Vincent with the ash fall, and Dominica with Hurricane Maria. Now, those are 3 different experiences altogether. With Hurricane Maria, we were able to go into Dominica. We don't have Salvation Army in Dominica. So it means that we're going in without having no base. We were able to partner with another denomination and use them as our base to help a community. So with the government of Dominica, we're able to go in with building supplies, tarpaulin, water, food stuff, hygienic stuff, school supplies, because we adopted a school. And that school was able to get refurbished with a number of things. So it wasn't just go in and help and come back out. We actually went back a year later with all of these and with the donor who gave us at the time, international donor, to go in and see the results, where we saw homes being rebuilt by the Salvation Army. We saw homes being putting back roofs on those homes. And we actually saw like hurricane straps, because one of the requirements was that in sponsoring this project, the donor asked that we make sure hurricane straps are on those homes. So it may seem like a simple get from here to over there, but we also had to ship a container, 2 containers from Barbados to Dominica with the building supplies from here, all of those things. And I must say that even though we shipped those 2 containers, one of them was actually packed by a company here. We just gave them the money and said, we need this, we're going to send you the container, you pack it with all the building supplies that we have asked you for, and the gardening supplies for the farmers. That program was so successful that we were able to help a number of farmers get back on their feet, a number of homes get shelter back so they can work at the shelters. We could able to feed persons for a number of months until they were able to get back on their feet in Dominica. Hurricane Elsa was a little bit different in the sense that we sent the stuff because we do have a Salvation Army in St. Vincent, but they're not on the Barbados, they're on the Trinidad. But we're able to work with them to send food stuff down and to make sure that is received and distributed to the persons that it was supposed to go to.
Now, I know that you have a core base of employees, but do you find it challenging to get persons to come and volunteer, for instance, when there is a crisis?
Sometimes, when there's a crisis, it is a bit challenging. But what we have found is that our partnerships with a lot of other organizations and companies, we can keep them in. Because we can call our partners who want to be there Christmas and say, hey, this is not Christmas, but hey, could you help us out because this disaster have happened and we want to assist in some way and some form. And most times they would say, we will give you a donation, but can our staff come?
Yeah.
And we will pack hampers, we will do this, we will do that. And some cases, they actually buy the stuff, pack that stuff where they are, and bring it to us already to give out, ready to give out. So those are things that we appreciate very much. And I can't tell you that corporate Barbados they're very good with the corporate social responsibility. They really help the Salvation Army a lot when it comes to that. And I must add that the UE Give Back program, the Territory Give Back program, excellent. That 150 hours, it serves us well, even without a disaster. So there are persons who are working in the kitchen to get the hours, the thrift store. Some will work in the office. During the year, we have our mid-year appeal. They will help us put together that appeal together so we can send it off to the post office. So they come in to the program in various areas. And yes, we do appreciate that the UE students who come here and volunteer have a good experience.
What would you like Barbadians to know about the work of the Salvation Army?
That it's holistic. It is not just about giving to that person, but it is about also ministering to them. One of the things I appreciate in working here at the HQ at Salvation Army, it is that you're able to see someone, and especially when you see them come from where they were and what they have accomplished. I remember when I had a UE student who volunteered here every end of semester because he had to do his 150 hours. And he went for a job interview and he put down my name as one of his references. And I was like, okay. And then he got the job. He came back and he said, thank you, because volunteering was allowed him to actually get into that job easier, because then I can say what his work ethic was. How did he carry himself? Did he take out the responsibility that was given to him professionally? Was he able to be punctual? If he's going to say he's coming at 10, was he there at 10 or 5 to 10? And those are things that you appreciate. You see that even though they have volunteered, that they have learned something, that it's a business when you come in here. It is not just because it's a Salvation Army that you can come in at 11 o'clock when you were supposed to come at 10. So those things are appreciated. Being the business manager, I appreciate that, the staff also does some of that supervising. And if they come and volunteer and see the staff not living up to the standard that we have, then it looks bad on us. So that when the volunteers come in, they pick up the culture of the organization. So to be here on time, let's do this, be efficient. Let us make sure that we reach and speak to people that we know that they're down or out, but they're still human. And how we speak to someone, how we treat people, even though that they may not have it, still give them some dignity and respect is most important.
Indeed. And I appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us this evening. Really, really appreciate it.
Most welcome.
You're welcome. That was Ms. Sherma Evening, the Divisional Business Manager for the Salvation Army here in Barbados. Before her, we spoke with Divisional Commander Major Brenda Greenidge of the Salvation Army as we looked holistically at what the Army does here on the island. I am Lisa Lord. You are watching One on One. Do have yourself a wonderful evening.